Welcome back to the Open Wide the Doors podcast here at the St. John Paul II Parish family. I'm your host for today, Erin Wright. Parenting has never been simple, but parenting in today's world brings challenges and questions that previous generations couldn't have imagined. So, we're going to be talking about Catholic parenting in 2026. From screens and schedules to faith formation and family prayer, Catholic parents are navigating a complex world while trying to raise children rooted in faith and love. Today, we're talking honestly about what that looks like and where parents can find some support along the way. I'm joined today by Sarah Merkel, who is involved in our parish family moms group. Through friendship, prayer, and shared experience, this group walks alongside mothers in all seasons of parenting. So, welcome, Sarah.
Thanks. Excited to be here.
So, what helps you get through the day? Coffee, tea, hot chocolate?
All of the above. Coffee probably is my day to day, but I like anything hot and warm that I will drink all throughout the day.
Yeah, I definitely am more of a coffee person, but tea is it's a good one to go to every once in a
Yeah. I like the end of the night, hot cup of tea,
while.
reading a book,
Yeah.
just got a heated blanket. Game
Oh,
changer.
nice. Is it a weighted heated blanket or
It's
just
got a natural weight because it's got the heating element in it, but it's not specifically weighted, but it's a game changer. Was living under a rock. I didn't know it existed.
I am gonna have to look into that. That sounds pretty nice. So how many kids do you have?
I have two boys. They are 6 and 8.
That's nice. You have 6 and 8. That's pretty close.
Yeah, they are almost exactly 2 years apart. Their due dates were the same week,
Wow.
but one came a couple of weeks early and one came a couple weeks late, so they ended up with birthdays about a month apart. I do feel like I'm kind of coming up for fresh air, if I'm being honest. They're both in school full time, and they will play board games with me. They can get their own shoes on to get out the door in the morning.
That's nice.
So I do feel a little bit like, in this kind of a sweet spot, and we haven't quite hit the drama that I hear is coming for me in the preteen and teen years. So
Yeah, I've heard that it's getting close.
it-
It'll be getting close. 14 is what I've heard is the typical age where start getting mouthy.
yeah. So I do feel like we're a little bit of a sweet spot for sure.
Good. That's good. So what's one moment that has helped you grow closer to the Lord as a parent?
That's a good question. I like to tell a story from when I first became a mom. Wasn't really around babies growing up. Only one of two kiddos, and my brother and I are only a couple years apart. And I just really wasn't around babies very much. So the whole experience was just very brand new to me. And when I first brought my first baby home, he was probably just a couple of months old, like 2 or 3 months old, and I was just tired and having a hard day, and he was just crying, and I needed to change a dirty diaper, and I had him on the changing table, and I was changing his dirty diaper, and my brother happened to be visiting from out of town, and I'm changing his diaper, and if you've ever changed a baby diaper before, like, it's not exactly they don't love it. It's not the baby's favorite thing in the world to get their diaper changed.
Yeah.
So I'm changing this like 2-month-old diaper, and he's screaming, like as if you would think that I'm pouring hot lava on him. And my brother comes in and kind of leans up against the doorway and looks at me and looks at the baby screaming. And he goes, "Why is he crying?" And I could have punched my brother at the time. And I just looked at him and was like, "I don't know. Like, I'm just changing his diaper. He cries every time he gets his diaper changed. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing it wrong." And I kind of stopped. And then I like had this like aha moment. And I remember looking at my brother and saying, "I think this is how God feels when he looks at us. I think this is how God feels about us, human people, his creation." Because I notice sometimes in my own life, God working in these ways that are for my own good, but it hurts or I don't like it or I don't want to do that. I kind of want to just cry and scream. And like in this, I kind of had this realization while I was changing his diaper. He thinks that I'm pouring hot lava on him. He thinks that this is the worst. This is the worst part of his day. This is the worst thing that's going to happen to him today because he doesn't realize he's not old enough to realize that I can't let him go through life with a dirty diaper.
Mhm.
I have to change you.
Mhm.
And it's gonna be annoying and hurt and be uncomfortable and whatever, but, like, that's better than letting you go the whole day with a dirty diaper. And
Yeah.
for me, it was just one of those moments where I was like, "Oh, I wonder." I'm sure those are so many times in my life where God is working behind the scenes to make my life, play out the way that he has planned for me, but are really annoying for me in the moment. And I remember my brother and I had this really lengthy conversation about it in the moment of like, wait a minute, I think this is an example of that. And now I notice it all the time. Like I will be going through something, or I will feel like in my prayer life that I'm supposed to be adding something that's like, for whatever reason, just like not an easy add, or, things are getting in my way that I feel like are not, like things aren't going the way that I want them to go or whatever. I kind of like to think to myself sometimes, like maybe this is God taking care of me and I just can't see it yet.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. God's working in all of our lives constantly, and it's very hard to see what he's actually doing and when he's actually doing something. And it's yeah, you're right. It is easy to just be like, "No, this is what I want. This is what I want to do, and this is I'm being led down a path or in a direction that's not the way that I was planning on going. This is not what I think this isn't what I have planned for my life." And so we can kind of kick and scream and just be like, no, you're hurting me. Like, this is not good for me. But the Lord has bigger plans. And we don't always know what those plans are until we're a little bit older, a little bit wiser to look back and be like, yeah, that was actually good for me. That was actually what I needed.
For sure. Can look back in my own life sometimes and see moments that people, random strangers and things, have acted as like God's hands and feet to me, led me down a certain path or introduced me to something. Sometimes it's friends, but like sometimes it's just random people, right? Too. It's like a person in the checkout line at the grocery store or whatever. They plant these seeds in my heart where with these one liners or these like random pieces of advice or whatever that changes my life. I don't get to, and I think to myself sometimes, like, I hope that I get to be that to people. And I know that in like, as a mom, I have that opportunity in a really unique way. But I also just hope that I get to be that to people that I meet randomly, knowing that I'm not going to see the fruit that that bears, but that hopefully I planted the seed.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so beautiful. And you're right. There's so many people in our lives that we may not no, they're planting the seeds, and we could just walk by and we should be like, go past that moment and just completely miss whatever they said was actually meaningful or was actually the Lord speaking through them, and but they were planting a seed. So it's like there's so many moments that we could be just missing if we're not really looking. But yeah, the Lord is constantly working, and we just have to do our best to try and see what He's actually doing. But
Absolutely.
yeah. So let's go ahead and go into talking about parenting. Every generation faces its own challenges. What feels uniquely different or uniquely hopeful about Catholic parenting today?
It's such a hard question. And I do feel a little bit like I said in the beginning, I'm this in the sweet spot of parenting where I haven't quite yet gotten to like the really tough topics that you hear people talk about with screens and outside influences. And in a lot of ways, I feel like my kids are still pretty sheltered, and like under my roof all the time.
Mm, yeah.
Obviously they're in school and everything, but I do feel like I'm in a little bit of a sweet spot. But thinking about this question, I think that when it comes to something that's like uniquely difficult, is obviously everything. Life just feels so loud now, even just like compared to the last 10 or 15 years, even everything just feels so loud. Everything's so fast paced. We're always like, I have a good friend that always says it feels like we're always like rushing. The whole world is just always rushing places and that we shouldn't have to rush anywhere. And that's like an easy piece of advice in theory, but in practicality, like that's just what it is, right? We wake
Mhm,
up, we go to school, we get home from school, we do homework, we go to whatever evening activity for the day, we
mhm,
come home, we try to have some semblance of a family life, and then we go to bed. And it's like if the day gets turned off by 5 minutes or thrown off by 5 minutes, then it can really domino and really ruin a big portion of the day. And so I think that's a big thing that's hard or difficult in like 2026 parenting, but also just it's loud with social media the way that it is. Like you can compare yourself to anybody at any time.
mhm,
You just have to get on your phone and realize, like, oh, I'm a bad mom. Look at all these people who are taking their kids here, or doing things here, or praying more, or praying, or bringing their faith into their home more, or taking their 10-year-olds fluent in Chinese already, or whatever it is. And it's just so easy to compare superficially because we don't A lot of times when you're comparing yourself to people that you see on TV or see on social media, you don't know the ins and outs of their life. You don't know how they prioritize their life or like why certain kids are in certain things. But you just see the after you just see the effect, right? You just
Mhm.
see they went on this vacation, they're learning these things, their kid received this award. And you don't really see like how what sacrifices they're making to make those things happen. You just like compare it as if like you could be doing something better, you know? And so I think that's something that is hard about this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Social media, the influence that social media has on our kids and on ourselves as well. Like as you mentioned, like it's easy to look at social media and online and just be like, oh, there's all of these moms that are doing all of these things, are accomplishing. They have their list of all of the things that they're getting through in a day, and then you look at your life and what you've accomplished for the day, and it's not what they did, and it's like, why can't I do that? But you don't know the whole story. You don't know how they are prioritizing their lives. Are they what's their priority that they're able to accomplish those things, and what's our priority where we're doing other things. It may not the list of accomplishments may not be the same, but we are accomplishing so many other things in different ways. And parenting looks different for everybody. It impacts the moms in that aspect, and then social media and the screens impacts the kids in that. And they grow up and they see things like that, like, oh, this kid is doing this as well, and I don't speak fluent in Chinese yet, and I'm 10 years old. There's everybody has different priorities, and it's so busy and it's so loud, and there's always this information that is being forced in your face, and you just don't know what's true, what you should be actually listening to, what you should actually be discerning and taking in, like, oh, maybe I need to change my life. But most of it's just noise, really, meaningless noise. So, and it's definitely today's generation is definitely dealing with that meaningless noise a lot more than 10, 15 years ago. I mean, I grew up not with, like, tablets, but with, like, screens, like, with TVs and stuff like that, and but just we didn't have the easily accessible, like, phones and tablets where I could just come in from school and, like, go straight to the phone or the tablet or whatever. So, it's definitely an ever-changing challenge as more technology comes out and as our culture gets busier and busier, because that is the lifestyle that we have today. It's fill all of your time so you can feel productive and accomplished at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think too, it contributes, at least for me, to like anxiety and worry too, because then you're just like you read about a really sad story from somebody in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska, and you're like, that could happen to me and or my kids or
Mhm.
whatever, and it's a constant stream and it's kind of hard sometimes to decipher out what is meaningful, what's something that you can learn from. Because that's the dance, right? Is that
Mhm.
there's also the other flip side of technology, which is that it is wonderful. We can stay connected to our family and friends out of state, and we can learn from other people who have walked a path before us in a way that is more accessible than it was before. And so but it's such a delicate dance.
Yeah, yeah. It's the screens and the technology that we have is all it's an ever-changing problem, and we don't really know how to approach it, really. Still trying to figure out how to discern what is actually needed and what is not. So how do parents balance protecting their children while preparing them to live faithfully in the world? I know you mentioned that your kids haven't actually been exposed to that much because they're still pretty young. I don't know if you have thoughts on how would a parent in theory protect their children?
Yeah, I think about this all the time, obviously, and I do definitely have glimpses of it. My 8-year-old, he's almost 9, he's definitely more in the world than he was a couple of years ago, and it's something that my husband and I constantly are kinda checking in with each other, like because it's just so hard, like, how do you protect them by not shelter them and all of these things. For us, what that's looked like, and I hold the right to say that when they're 16 and I realize that I did it all wrong, that I could come back and be like, "Nope, that was terrible advice." But at least now, our mentality has always just been, modeling the behavior in the home, what we want them to be, right, is modeling it. So for that, it looks like for us, like for Matt and I, my husband, it looks like, modeling that behavior that we want, making sure. that we are getting help when we need help and pouring into our faith life and living a disciplined life, reading, always learning, reading, always asking questions, kind of being curious, but also admitting to our faults when they come up, seeking help when we need it, and hoping that like our modeling of that behavior will show them how to live that,
Yeah.
how to live. And then just trying our best to keep an open forum for them to ask questions as they come up. We kind of always have like a little bit of a motto in our house, like answer the question, but don't give them any more kind of thing. Cause they're young and I have a tendency to lecture, if you could imagine. But sometimes I have to remind myself that I always want them to feel like they can ask me anything and that they're going to get an honest question answer. And so and just try my best to answer the questions that come up as honestly as I can. Not necessarily like jumping into a big lecture about it, but answering them very directly and hoping that that means that, as they navigate life in this world, they'll know that they can always come and ask me or us questions as it comes up. So, yeah, I think for me, that's my current philosophy.
Yeah, and that's a really beautiful philosophy to have. I mean, modeling and kids are always watching and learning, and what they see is what they are going to is how they are going to be. If the more models that they have that are performing or acting in a specific way in their lives, so like the more likely that they will be acting like that in their future. It's not always a guarantee, but like if you are acting and you're prioritizing your prayer and you show them how much how important it is, I can definitely see how that would be very beneficial to them and how they would just be like look back in their life when they're 16, 17, 18, and they're starting to get more into the real world and they look back and like, oh, mom and dad prioritized their faith and their prayer time and this is how they got through life. It makes sense that they would in turn be like, yeah, that's what I need to do to help get me through whatever problem or challenge that they may be facing at that age and that time. Oh yeah, that's really cool. Like modeling, trying to model how they should be.
Yeah, it does come back and bite me a little bit when they start yelling at each other, and I'm like, "That sounds like me." So, it's definitely I'm still definitely learning and having to work on myself every day so that I definitely don't have it perfect. But also to reminding them the importance of having holy friendships and surrounding yourself with people too, I think is really important. We are blessed to have a really awesome community. We're active parishioners in our family of parishes. Our kids go to the parish school, Bishop Leibold, and we've been very blessed by like a great community too, which I think helps a lot,
Mhm.
so that our kids are, you know, around like-minded people and see us in friendship with one another. Hopefully one day will seek that out for themselves as well.
Yeah.
I remember recently I was headed out to book club and I was leaving and I just kind of like one foot out the door and I just yelled back like, "Okay, I'm leaving, guys." And my younger son goes, "Where are you going, mom? Are you going to book club?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am, buddy." And he's like, "I knew it." And then like I left and I was driving in the car and I was like, first of all, it's hilarious. But second of all, like, how great is that? That he is gonna like, I hope that he grows up and remembers that I prioritized meeting with like-minded women to talk about to, like, grow in our faith in a way you know what I mean? Like, I hope that he
Yeah,
realizes, like, it wasn't just something that naturally came. It's something that I had to work for, that I had to, like, take the time out of my week and
absolutely.
foster those relationships. And does he know that now at 6? No. But I hope that, like, when he says, "I knew it," what he was saying is like, "Well, she always does that." And, like,
Mhm.
that's a gift
Yeah.
to be able to say that, like, it's, something in my life that's a pillar so much so that the 6-year-old notices.
Yeah, and when you're seeing that, when you're seeing your parents, those who are immediately raising you, do these things and put in the work, put in the effort to live holy lives, you see how it just doesn't come to you. Sometimes it can be that I could see how it can be easy to just like tell someone like or tell your child to be like, we pray because this is what we're told. Like this is just do it and not living that example. They just see, oh, it just my mom was really holy and I didn't see her actually praying, but it was who she was. So, and then they face any problems and they handle a situation that may not have been the way that their parents would have handled the situation. And they're like, oh, I'm not as holy as my parent. I'm not as good as my parents were. And then they just think it's a character flaw. But when you see the effort that you put in, they grow up and they realize, "Oh, yeah, I need to put in this effort. I need to work at it too." It's not just it just doesn't come to you. It's not just who you are, it's what you're working for, how you're trying to strive to grow your relationship with the Lord.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
that's so cool. It's such a cute story. I knew it.
I knew it.
It's sounds like a kid.
Yeah.
Um, so parents are the first teachers of faith. What does faith formation realistically look like in busy homes today?
Yeah, I think that's so hard, or that's a hard thing that families go through. It's like balancing it all, right? And
Mhm,
prioritizing the faith in the home and teaching the faith. There's kind of like this two-sided thing, right? It's like teaching the faith and then like living the faith and living a prayerful life. And they can kind of sometimes compete with each other, even though they shouldn't. And I by no means have gotten it right. And there have been seasons of my life where I feel like, wow, I'm crushing this like liturgical living, for lack of a better terminology, and then there are seasons where I'm like, "It's been a whole year, since the last Advent? Great." And so it definitely has taken different shapes and forms over the years, but the one thing that I always try to go back to, especially in the really busy seasons, is just a reliance on God and turning to Him in times of need. And so we do really try to live the liturgical seasons. We really try to have time for prayer and peace and contemplation in Advent, and really focus on sacrifice and almsgiving and things of that nature in Lent. And we celebrate the boys' feast days and patron saints that are important to us and things like that throughout the years. But like I said, there could be a whole year where like
mhm,
it's like, wow, missed that totally. And so that stuff kind of comes and goes. And I think it's super important and wonderful when it can happen. But it can kind of come and go when seasons are busy. But the one thing that I hope to always do, and something that we've always tried really hard to do, is that if our kids are struggling with something or really excited about something or really sad about something, to just stop and pray and really take a second, because it's something you can do in the car. It's like
mhm,
on the way to something that they're nervous about, or on the way home from something that didn't go as well as they wanted, or whatever it may be, or like after, right when we hear news about something sad that's happened in the world or whatever, to kind of just stop and pray 30 seconds. And hopefully, I'm hoping, I have no evidence that it's going to work yet, but I'm hoping that it will help them when they get older to be able to do that always as well.
yeah, yeah, you're right. Our world is so busy and so chaotic and so noisy. There's so much noise going on, and just it can be super easy to just let time fly by. And yeah, taking the moment here and there when you can, when you think of it, to stop and pray with your kids, with your family, just to reset the mood or reset the situation, or just to pray over the day or ask for guidance, whatever it may be. Just having a moment or two whenever you can is so beautiful, and can really that's where you can really plant seeds, and that'll impact hopefully the kids when they get older. So, can you tell us more about our Parish Family Moms group? Who it's for, what you do together, and how it supports mothers in different seasons of life?
Yeah. So the moms group has kind of taken different forms, at least as for as long as I've been a part of it. Um, but I originally joined when I first moved to the area, the St. Mary's Moms Group, and we met, and it looked different over different years. And we've done book clubs and social events and service projects, kind of a little bit of everything. Ever since we are now a combined parish family, we are kind of looking at what does that look like as we bring the three parishes together. And so we're kind of in the process of figuring out what this looks like moving forward. But we just finished a book club. We read a book by St. Carlo Acutis's mom, which was really fun and a great way to get together, and then also like read a book about a woman who literally raised a saint. So who better to learn from parenting? So, but yeah, so for me, it's been just a wonderful part of my life to have a group of women who I can grow in faith with, grow in community with, and then ultimately grow closer to God alongside. Um, honestly, in different seasons of my life, obviously I've had been more engaged and less engaged depending on what's going on. And but the one thing that always rings true is there's something about walking into church, any of the churches. And now that nowadays I go to church at like all 3 campuses depending on the schedule of the weekend. And every time I feel like I can walk in and I at least recognize one other
Mhm.
person
Yeah.
and we like wave at each other or nod at each other from across, you know, the room. There's like just something really special about like, recognizing the people and knowing the people you're in community with and being like, "Oh, yeah, like, we were praying for this, did that work out?" And just having a steady group of people that you can call upon. But, I mean, the moms group has blessed my life in so many ways. When they've done meal trains for me when we've had babies, and we've gathered, like I said, to celebrate big things and work together on service projects, kind of a little bit of everything, and it's been something in my life that I've really, really loved and enjoyed, and I've met some of my closest friends through.
That's so beautiful. I love this ministry that's here in our parish family, and having a mom's group that is centered in our Catholic faith, and it's just going to mass and then seeing somebody that you know and waving to them and just having that sense of community and knowing that you're not alone in your motherhood, in your Catholic motherhood is so beautiful. I do feel like a lot of times that motherhood can feel kind of lonely, and just like, I have to figure this out. I have to do this myself. But having that community of moms that is shares your faith is so valuable to just help you grow and help you get through every stage of life and every new age with the kids. So yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's cool too when obviously, when you get a group of moms together, there's different generations in the room, right?
yeah.
There's moms who are had just had their first baby, or moms who are empty nesters, or moms that are kind of in that teenage stage, or like me, in the true like childhood phase of motherhood. And so it's just like a built-in group of people you can like ask advice to. There are people that have walked ahead of you, and then there are people that you can kind of share your advice because you're, in a different spot than them. Like, "Oh, I remember when
Mhm.
I was in that position." So, to me, that is so beautiful to be able to, like, have, a group of women that I can ask, like, "Hey, how did you like, when you had an 8-year-old and they were doing X, Y, and Z, like, what worked for you? What didn't work for you?" And for sure, since it is within our parish community, there's this backbone of faith and of praying for one another, even, like, in seasons there have been years where, like, in, like, the COVID years and post-COVID years where we weren't meeting as regularly, and even now we're trying to kind of revamp some parts of it. But even in those years where we maybe weren't gathering as frequently as we used to, it's always just been like a place where if you needed prayers, these women were gonna pray, and show up for you. So it's been really wonderful.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, just to have a community, have that group where you can feel supported and your journey and your motherhood journey, and ask for prayers and know that people are out there praying for you and supporting you on your journey. That's so beautiful. I love that. So many parents feel pressure to get it right. How does trusting God with our children bring peace, even when we feel uncertain?
That's such a hard question because I'm one of those parents that totally feels pressure to get it right. And there are so many moments where my prayer is just like, God, like, make this right in their life. For me, I noticed myself, like, in fact, today we're recording this on a Thursday, and it was mass at our Good Hope campus. So I get to go to mass and see my kiddo at mass at school. Um, my prayer is always just like, help them meet you here, right? Like, my prayer to God is like, help them meet you. Because at the end of the day, I have all this pressure to get it right, but I feel all this pressure to get it right. But it's like kind of that old adage of like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them
Mm,
drink. And
yeah,
I do sometimes feel like I get to a certain point where I have to just be like, "Okay, God, this is you." Like, I hope that they have met you. I hope that I've modeled your love and that they're gonna foster their own relationship with him.
yeah.
Really kinda just, like, hope for the best, and know that, like, I guess for when it comes to peace, for me, I take peace knowing that I'm on the other side of that, of childhood, right? Like,
Mm,
I take peace knowing that I had parents who modeled the faith, that I did things that were not the best, or I made my fair share of mistakes, and I got to the other side, and I can look back and see God's hand in it all, and
Mhm.
I'm, hopefully, God willing, have a whole life still ahead of me where I'm gonna keep learning those hard lessons.
Yeah.
But I have a little bit of wisdom to be able to look back and say, "Okay, like, I in the moment, I didn't think I was ever gonna get through this, and I did." And so I do take peace and hope that my kiddos get to have that one day too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just surrendering that to the Lord, and knowing that you're not in complete control. And that's really hard to give up, and just realize that you can't control everything that happens in your life, and you can't control everything that happens in their lives. And that's a hard step to take, and just but trusting the Lord and surrendering your children to the Lord is so beautiful, and just knowing that the Lord is really in control. He has a plan. And he's doing something in the kids, in their lives, just a little tiny mustard seed that may take some time to grow, but that's so beautiful, yeah, and going to mass with your kid, even if it's just at even if you're not sitting next to them on Sunday mass, but, like, going to mass throughout the week with their school mass, and they're seeing you there. That's so beautiful.
It is really a gift for me, honestly, and I feel very blessed to be able to do it.
Yeah. So as we look at Catholic parenting in 2026, what message of hope would you want to offer to parents listening today?
Yeah, I think my message would just be to don't be discouraged, never give up hope. That's a JP2 quote.
Yeah.
A paraphrase, we'll say. uh, but I do think that in this world, it is so loud. Everybody has an opinion. You look up something, am I doing this right? And there's contradicting opinions. And it can feel very much overwhelming, very much like there's no way I'm gonna get this right. There's no way I'm gonna mess up my kids forever. Something terrible is gonna happen, whatever. I think what I would like to tell somebody, which is really just what I would like to hear from a close friend, is don't be discouraged, never give up hope. It's all going to be okay. And to just take the next right step. That's kind of a motto we have in
Mhm.
the Merkel house is take the next right step because so often we can't, it's overwhelming to look at like, okay, how are we going to accomplish this lofty goal or how are we going to
Mhm.
do this big thing? And so something we always say in our house is just let's just take the next right step and know that when we stack those steps on top of each other, then we'll hopefully make forward movement.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at the big picture and you look at everything that you have ahead of you, and it can seem daunting, like a really hard challenge that you have to face. But I like to take the next right step. Don't give up hope. Really, just keep moving forward. Don't get discouraged. Really, things are rough. Things will get. You're going to face challenges. Taking the next right step, just focusing one step at a time, and just moving forward when you can. That's all you really can do, and just hope for the best. Really.
Yeah, a little nugget from the Carlo book that we just read as a mom's group. What is Carlo talked a lot about hope and always from the perspective of heaven and like living for the next life, basically. And I mean, I could go on this topic, but I guess to kind of like put a bow around it, what I thought was really beautiful and what I think is really beautiful about Christian hope, authentic hope, is that it's not a wish. Like we're not wishing that everything works out. We know that there's heaven on the other side of this. And
Mm.
so our hope isn't like, oh, I hope it works out or I hope everything out. It's that I hope as in I know it's all gonna work out. I know that at the end of this, heaven's on the other side, and as long as we keep that in focus, that it's all gonna kinda work itself out.
Yeah, absolutely. And just keeping your eyes focused on that big goal, but knowing that to reach that big goal of getting to heaven is you're just taking small steps. You're trying to work your way towards heaven. So, but yeah, having that hope, having that trust that there is heaven that we're striving to get towards is so valuable, so important.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for joining us today and talking to us about Mom's Group and Catholic parenting. Enjoyed having you on here and talking to you.
Me too.
Catholic parenting isn't about perfection, it's about faithfulness. No one's perfect. No one's gonna get it right, perfectly right. It's about showing up, loving well, and praying often, and trusting God to do the rest. And no parent is meant to do it alone. May our parish continue to be a place where mothers and families find support, encouragement, and friendship as they raise the next generation of disciples. So, yeah, if you're interested in getting involved in the moms group, we have a link in the show notes for you to check that out. But until next time, God bless.